We're all addicted to buying garbage we don't need, and it's quietly ruining our lives. Underconsumption, which is using and buying less, isn't about preaching or pinching pennies. It's about taking back your life from a world that's got you on a leash. I've got 15 practical tips for you to consume less, all straight from my own trial and error. The first tip is to unsubscribe from every single marketing email and text that lands in your inbox or phone. You know those messages, flash sale or only 12 hours left. They're everywhere and they're literally built to mess with your head. I used to get sucked in, opening one email about a discount and ending up with a cart full of clothes I didn't even like. Now I just take 5 minutes every few days, open each one, scroll down and click unsubscribe. For texts, I reply stop and watch them vanish. It's not just about cleaning your inbox, it's about shutting down that constant nudge to spend. Ads like these trigger a fear of missing out, FOMO, pushing you to buy before you think. So once I cut them off, I stopped feeling that pull. It's like turning off a loudspeaker blaring in your ear. Tip number 2 is to wait a full week before buying anything that costs more than $20. You spot a new pair of shoes or a gadget and your gut says, get it now. Instead, write it down on your phone, a sticky note, whatever, and give it 7 days. I started this after I kept wasting money on impulse buys that I just never used. A while back, I saw a backpack I swore I needed, jotted it down and waited. By day 7, I'd forgotten why I cared. It just wasn't worth it. Your brain gets a jolt of excitement when you first see something, but waiting lets that fade so you can decide with a clear head. It's not about never spending, it's just about making sure you're not chasing a fleeting buzz. My third tip is to swap shopping time for hanging out with people. I found that I'm way more likely to just shop online when I'm alone with nothing to do. So one night I was about to order a random bookcase and I made the conscious decision to just call a friend instead. We met up at a park and we talked for hours. No package arrived, I didn't do any shopping, but I felt way better. Spending time with others boosts your happiness more than piling up objects ever will. And it doesn't have to be a big deal. Grab a coffee, sit on a bench, anything that gets you out of your head. It's the shift that fills the gap without emptying your account. Tip number 4 is to cap how many of each item you own, like limiting yourself to 5 shirts or 3 pairs of shoes. If you want something new, you have to get rid of something old first. My dresser used to burst with shirts I never wore, so I set a rule: 5 max. When I liked a new one, I donated an old one to make room. Having too many choices stresses you out and makes you less satisfied with what you've got. This isn't about living with nothing. It's just about keeping what you own in check so you don't end up buried under duplicates you don't need. My 5th tip is to borrow whatever you're thinking of buying before you commit. If you want a blender or a bike, see if a friend, neighbor, or family member has one you can try for a bit. I was sure I needed a tent for camping, so I borrowed one from my brother and used it once. It was fine, but I didn't love it enough to buy my own. We usually think we'll use new purchases more than we actually do, and borrowing proves what's worth it. It costs you nothing and it stops you from stacking up gear you'll forget about. Tip number 6 is to fix anything that breaks instead of replacing it right away. My favorite mug cracked and I almost tossed it for a new one until I found some glue and patched it up. It's held coffee ever since. The same goes for clothes, electronics. Look up a tutorial or take it to someone who can mend it. I spent $15 fixing a jacket zipper once instead of $50 on a new jacket. We ditch items too fast because fresh ones feel exciting, but repairing stretches your money and keeps junk out of the trash. It's not about being perfect, it's just about giving what you have a longer shot. Tip number 7 is to search your own home for what you think you need before heading to a store. I was ready to buy a new notebook, then checked a drawer and found 2 I'd stashed away. Problem solved. Go through your kitchen, bedroom, wherever stuff hides, and see what's there. We own way more than we realize, and using it up cuts the urge to add more. It's like finding money you didn't know you had, and it feels good to skip the checkout line. My 8th tip is to write down every purchase you make for a whole month. I took a small notebook and logged it all. Groceries, a haircut, even a pack of gum. After 30 days, I saw I'd spent $30 on takeout I did not even enjoy. Tracking what you spend makes you pause and question what's worth it. It's not about judgment, it's just about seeing the full picture. I wasn't trying to punish myself, I just wanted to know where my cash was going. It's eye-opening and it naturally slows you down. Tip number 9 is to pick one day every week where you do not spend a single cent. I settled on Wednesdays. No food runs, no online orders, nothing. I make sure I've got essentials beforehand and it's just like a reset button. Little habits like this build willpower without feeling like a chore. The first time, I caught myself reaching for my phone to order dinner, but now it's normal. It's not about suffering, it's just about proving that you can skip a day and still be fine, which makes you rethink the other 6. Tip number 10 is to sell anything you haven't used in the last 6 months. I had a pair of headphones sitting in a box unused, so I posted them online and got $10. Look around, clothes, books, random gadgets, and list what you've not used in the past 3 months. Letting go of idle items clears your mind and cuts the itch to replace them with more. It's not about stripping your place bare, but it is about turning clutter into something useful instead of letting it sit there. My 11th tip is to switch to cash only for 4 weeks and leave your cards at home. I took out a set amount each week, carried it, and when it was gone, that was it. Handing over actual bills feels different, harder than swiping plastic. I think twice before breaking a 20 for a snack. Cash makes spending real, not abstract, so you cut back without trying. It's annoying to start, but it really does rewire how you see every single dollar. Tip 12 is to plan every buy at least a day in advance. Before I grab anything, groceries, a towel, I decide the night before and stick to it. I used to wander stores picking up extras like a candle I didn't need until I started planning. Deciding ahead kills impulse buys because you're locked in before temptation hits. And it's not really about being strict, it's more about just running the show instead of letting the moment decide for you. It's just about having control. My 13th tip is to learn a skill that replaces something you would buy. I was tired of buying bread, so I learned to bake a simple loaf. It is ugly, but it works. Pick one thing, cooking, mending a seam, and figure it out with a video or a book. Doing it yourself makes you less reliant on store-bought fixes. It's not about being an expert, it's just about skipping one more purchase with your own hands. My 14th tip is to avoid all sales, period. Those buy now, save later signs are an absolute lie. They just hook you. I used to hit clearance racks and leave with cheap things I didn't want, like a scarf I never wore. Now I walk past sales in stores and skip them online. Discounts psychologically trick you into buying junk that you would otherwise ignore. It's not a deal if you don't need it. It's a dodge to keep your space and money clear. Tip number 15 is to seek out moments that make you feel small in a big world. I started watching the stars at night or reading about how deep the sea goes, and it is wild how it shifts your focus. It's free, just step outside, notice the wind, or flip through a library book about nature. Feeling awe pulls you away from wanting more materialistically by showing you what's already huge. Each of these 15 tips has its own path to consuming less. I've lived these and they work without making you feel strapped. You save cash, ease your mind, and quit feeding a machine that does not care about you. Cutting back doesn't just keep money in your pocket, it makes quiet things like a morning with no plans feel happier than any new toy. Are there any other tips that you would recommend to consume less? Let me know in the comments. And if you found this helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe for more videos like this.